Welcome back to the Deep Dive. We've got some really interesting source material today. It's an excerpt from Rhapsody of Realities by Pastor Chris. It's all teachings, scripture analysis, really focusing in on ministering healing.
Yeah, it's a fascinating topic.
And we're not looking at whether healing happened, are we? We're digging into the how.
Exactly.
Because the sources, they present this kind of paradox. You have the Lord healing everyone consistently, but the actual methods he used, they seem to change all the time. Wildly inconsistent, sometimes, frankly, a bit strange.
Unpredictable is a good word for it.
So our mission today is to really get into those specific, sometimes unconventional healing stories from the Gospels, and then figure out what the sources say is the main conclusion. You know, what's the one constant thing behind all these different methods?
Right.
And then how does that connect to what the sources describe as the difference between ministering through faith versus ministering through the Spirit's specific gifts today?
That's the core distinction they draw, yeah.
Okay, let's unpack this then. Because you'd think, wouldn't you? The greatest power source in history, you'd expect consistency, a reliable method.
You would, like a standard operating procedure.
But the texts show us the exact opposite. And that's the first puzzle we need to tackle.
That's absolutely right. You know, when theologians or ministers really study the Gospels, it jumps out pretty quickly. The Lord ministered healing in so many different ways. Often it seemed tailored, specifically for that person or that exact moment.
It sort of challenges our modern idea that power needs a standardized process.
It really does. And think about us, about human nature. If we did find one repeatable formula for something miraculous, what would happen?
We'd probably turn it into a ritual, right? Focus on the steps.
Exactly. We'd focus on the action, the spitting, the touching, the command, whatever it was, and maybe forget where the real power was coming from.
Okay, so if the methods are all over the place, what is the constant? According to this source material, if the action changes, what stays the same?
Well, the sources are really clear on this. It didn't matter what the condition was or the specific case, or even what physical action he took or didn't take. The constant element, the key, was always that the healing was ministered by and through the Spirit.
Ah, okay, so the method was the variable.
Right. But the guidance, the power source, that was fixed. It was an internal thing, a prompting from the Spirit, not like following steps in a manual.
And crucially, for you listening, the sources are saying this isn't just ancient history. This idea of variable methods, dictated by that constant internal guidance, that's still the standard, they say. For ministers today called to, heal the sick, cleanse the lepers, cast out devils, and raise the dead.
If the source of the power is the Spirit, then the method has to stay flexible, guided by that same Spirit. Now, just as then.
So the variability itself is maybe part of the point.
That's what's fascinating, yeah. It kind of prevents the technique itself from becoming the focus. It keeps everyone looking towards the invisible guidance, not just the visible action.
Right, okay. This is where it gets really interesting, I think. To really grasp the source's argument, we need to look at the examples side by side, the contrasts.
Yes, the extremes really highlight it.
So on one end, you have just pure simplicity, spoken command, nothing else. Like the man with the withered hand in Matthew 12.
Oh, that's a beautiful example. So simple, the master didn't even, walk over and touch him, did he?
No.
He just spoke, said, "Stretch forth your hand." And that was it. That was the whole interaction from his side. The man obeyed, stretched it out, and bam, fully restored, instantly.
And it's similar with the blind man in Luke 18, right? Just as straightforward.
Yep. The text just says, he told him, "Receive your sight," that's all. And sight was restored.
In cases like these, the sources seem to stress that, physical touch or anything elaborate just wasn't needed. The power was in the Word, guided by the Spirit.
Exactly. Effortless, almost.
But then, you hit this massive contrast. If just speaking works perfectly fine, why would you ever see the other extreme? Why use actions that seem, messy, intimate, maybe even medically unnecessary?
That's the million-dollar question the sources make us confront, isn't it? Why the complexity when simplicity works? It's not just a small change, it's a totally different approach.
Let's look at the deaf-mute man in Mark chapter 7. The description there, it reads like a detailed procedure. It's almost performative.
It really is specific.
Okay, step one. He takes the man aside, away from everyone else. That's deliberate, personal. Then he puts his fingers into the man's ears. Then he spat and touched the man's tongue.
Yeah, quite physical actions.
Then he looks up to heaven. He sighs.
Yeah.
And only then does he say the word Ephatha, which means be opened.
Right.
It's like, what, 7 specific physical close contact steps? Compared to just saying, receive your sight. It's worlds apart.
And imagine being there, watching that. You'd be thinking, what does spitting have to do with hearing? Or the sigh? But the sources are pointing out each step, however unusual, was spirit-directed for that moment.
And it gets even, well, maybe stranger, with the blind man in John chapter 9. I mean, if you walked into a modern ministry setting, maybe what some call a healing school, and the person leading it started spitting on the ground.
Yeah, you might think they'd completely lost the plot, right?
Exactly.
But that process in John 9, it's fascinating. He spits on the ground, makes mud or clay with the spit.
Right.
Then he takes that clay and puts it on the man's eyes, anoints them with it. And here's another key thing. He doesn't just heal him right there. He gives him homework, basically.
Tells him to go wash it off.
Tells him to go wash in the pool of Siloam. That action, the washing, was part of the spirit-directed process for that healing.
So bringing all this variability together, it just hammers home that central idea, doesn't it? The power isn't inherent in the mud or in the word alone or in the touch itself.
No, it's in the spirit-specific guidance for that person, that situation, that moment. The method follows the guidance.
Okay, but then this raises a really practical question for ministers today, right? If there's no set formula, how on earth do they know what to do? Speak, lay hands, make mud.
And that ambiguity, that question, it's directly addressed in the source material when talking about modern practice. It says contemporary ministers know by the Spirit what they're supposed to do.
So it's that same internal prompting.
Yes. Whether it's just speaking words or laying on of hands, which is maybe more common, or sometimes doing something quite unique and specific, just like we see in the Gospels, it comes from the same Spirit.
Is there any insight into how they know?
Well, we hear accounts sometimes from places like ministry training centers that the guidance often comes as like a direct set of knowing, or sometimes even a quick internal picture, a vision of the specific action to take.
Before they even approach the person.
Sometimes before, sometimes right as they approach. They might see an internal image or get a strong sense they should pray a certain way, or maybe just tell the person to stand up, or yes, in some cases, do something that seems unusual. That unique, specific guidance is what the sources attribute to the gifts of the Spirit in operation.
The sources draw a sharp line here, right, between two ways of ministering.
They do, a very important distinction. The first approach is what we've been talking mostly about, ministering by the gifts of the Spirit. That's unique, specific, driven by that direct, moment-by-moment prompting or vision. The minister is acting on an instruction tailor-made for that situation.
Got it. And the second approach?
The second is described as ministering solely through faith. Now, this approach doesn't necessarily rely on getting a unique vision or a specific, unusual instruction through a spiritual gift. Instead, it's more about preaching the message, the promise of healing, and then acting out one's own faith together with the person needing healing. So in this scenario, the healing comes through mutual faith, activating God's promise. The faith of the minister and the faith of the person receiving.
That's a really profound difference. Because it implies ministry isn't just for those getting, like, unique divine blueprints for every single case.
Exactly. It broadens the scope.
But whether someone is operating through a very specific, spontaneous gift of the Spirit or through that power of mutual faith, the source material stresses there's one thing that's absolutely essential. A non-negotiable prerequisite.
Absolutely critical. The effectiveness of any method, whether it's a simple command, a complicated action like making clay, or that partnership of faith, it all hinges on the minister being in the Spirit. And even more than that, being full of the Spirit.
Being full of the Spirit.
Yes. The sources point to Ephesians 5:8. You know the verse. And be not drunk with wine, wherein is excess, but be filled with the Spirit. That fullness that's presented as the engine, it's the power source that makes any subsequent action legitimate and effective.
It's that fullness, the actions, whether it's speaking or spitting.
They're just empty actions, routine without power. That fullness is the vital connection.
Okay, so wrapping this up, what's the big takeaway for you listening? The core message from this source material seems to be that effective healing ministry, whether back in Galilee or happening today, it isn't defined by doing the right external thing.
No, it's not about conformity.
It's about the internal connection. The difference between success and failure isn't knowing the perfect prayer formula or the exact touch technique. It's being connected to the source, the Spirit, who tells you what specific thing to do or guides that act of mutual faith.
Well said.
And the source material forces us to see these incredibly different things. The immense power that fixed a withered hand with just a word versus the, let's be honest, strange ritual involving mud and washing it puts them on the exact same spiritual level.
Hmm. Because the value wasn't in the action itself or the materials used.
It was in the spiritual guidance that prompted that action or use.
Exactly. So maybe a final thought to leave you with. If the method can vary so dramatically from pure word to, well, messy ritual, but the power behind it is constant, maybe the whole point of the variation is to mess with our human need for predictability.
To keep us from making formulas.
Yeah. To make sure the focus stays firmly on the invisible power source and that moment-by-moment guidance instead of letting us get comfortable with just a visible routine, a performance.
Definitely something to mull over, how that idea inner guidance versus external consistency might play out in other areas of life too. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.
For more information on how you can grow spiritually using Rhapsody of Realities, please visit our website, www.rhapsodyofrealities.org, or you can also visit rin.rhapsodyofrealities.org/salvation. Thank you.